The Galactic Council chamber was the largest room had ever seen. It stretched so far that she could not see the walls on the other side. Thousands of alien delegates sat in floating seats that circled around a central platform. The ceiling was made of glass, and through it she could see distant stars and colorful clouds of space dust. Stood at the back of the human group. She wore her simple gray uniform with no medals or marks of rank. She was small compared to most of the aliens in this room. At 5'4", she barely reached the chest of some species. Her black hair was tied back in a tight knot. Her hands rested calmly at her sides. Ambassador stood at the front of their group. He was a tall man with gray hair and a kind face. He had spent 30 years building bridges between humans and alien civilizations. Today was the most important day of his career. Humanity was asking to join the Galactic Military Alliance. "We have reviewed your application," said the council speaker. The speaker was a creature made of floating crystals that glowed with soft blue light. Its voice came from everywhere at once. "Humanity has shown great progress in technology and diplomacy. However, some members have raised concerns." Nodded politely. "We are happy to address any concerns." A loud snort came from across the chamber, turned her head slightly to look. The sound came from the delegation. There were reptiles that walked on two legs. They stood over 7 feet tall. Their skin was covered in thick scales that could stop a knife. Their hands ended in claws that looked like curved blades. Their eyes were yellow with black slits in the center. The one who had made the noise was named Riss. He was the military commander, famous across the galaxy for conquering 12 worlds. He wore a cape made from the hide of some animal did not recognize. "I have concerns," Riss said. His voice was deep and rough like stones grinding together. He stood up from his seat and looked down at the human delegation. "Humans are weak. They are soft. They have no natural weapons. Their skin tears easily. Their bones break under pressure." Kept his polite smile. "Humans have proven themselves capable in many conflicts." "With guns," Riss said, spitting the word like it was poison. "With bombs. With machines that do the killing for them. Take away their toys and what are they? Prey animals, nothing more." Murmurs spread through the chamber. Many delegates seemed to agree. Watched their faces and saw doubt, amusement, and even pity directed at the human group. Stood next to. He was young, barely 25, and served as a communications officer. His hands were shaking slightly. "This is bad," he whispered. "If they reject us, it could set human expansion back by decades." Said nothing. She was watching Riss. The commander stepped onto the central platform. His clawed feet clicked against the metal surface. "I propose a test," he announced. "A simple demonstration of combat ability. No weapons, no armor, no machines, just body against body. If humans can prove they are warriors without their tools, I will support their membership." The chamber buzzed with excitement. Aliens leaned forward in their seats. This was unexpected entertainment. Frowned. "What kind of test?" "3 of my warriors against 1 human," Riss said. "Hand-to-hand combat. If your human can defeat even one of them, I will vote yes. If not, I will vote no, and I will make sure everyone knows that humans are not fit for alliance membership." Felt grab her arm. "He cannot be serious. Those warriors will tear any human apart. They have claws, they have armored skin. This is murder, not a test." Many delegates seemed to share this concern. The council speaker's crystals flickered. "Commander Riss, this seems unfair. The physical differences between species." "Then humans should admit they are inferior and withdraw," Riss interrupted. "Or perhaps they can prove that their famous courage is more than just words." Was silent for a long moment. Could see him thinking, weighing options, looking for diplomatic solutions. But there were none. Riss had trapped them. If they refused, humanity would look weak. If they accepted, someone would likely die. Stepped forward. The movement was small but noticed. He turned to look at her. They had worked together for 3 years. He knew her file. He knew what she had done before becoming a diplomatic security officer. Ambassador said quietly, "I volunteer." His eyes went wide. "No, this is suicide." "I have studied anatomy," she replied. "I know their weak points. I know how they move." Studied her face. He saw no fear there, no doubt, just calm readiness. He had seen that look before in soldiers who had faced death so many times that it no longer scared them. "Are you certain?" he asked. "Humans did not become the dominant species on Earth by being weak," said. "We just became so good at killing that we had to invent rules to stop ourselves. Let me show them." Turned back to face Riss. There was grinning, showing rows of sharp teeth. He expected an easy victory. He expected to humiliate humanity in front of the entire galaxy. "We accept your challenge," announced. His voice was steady and strong. "Lieutenant will represent humanity." Riss looked at and laughed. The sound echoed through the massive chamber. "This small female, this is your champion." He laughed again and others joined him. "Very well, prepare the arena. Tomorrow the galaxy will see what humans truly are." Met his eyes without blinking. She had faced worse than laughter. She had faced death in dark places that never made it into official reports. She had killed enemies who were bigger, stronger, and better armed than her. The thought they knew what humans were. They were about to learn how wrong they were. The arena had not been used in 40 years. It sat at the bottom level of the council station, a circular platform surrounded by rising seats that could hold 10,000 spectators. Holographic barriers shimmered around the fighting area, ready to contain any violence that might spill outward. Today, every seat was filled. Word had spread quickly through the station. A human had accepted the challenge. A small human female would fight 3 warriors with no weapons. Some came to see history. Most came to see blood. Stood in a small preparation room beneath the arena. The walls were bare metal. A single light hung from the ceiling. She had removed her jacket and boots. She wore only her gray undershirt and military pants. Her feet were bare against the cold floor. She moved through a slow series of stretches. Her muscles were warm and loose. Her breathing was deep and steady. Her heart beat at a calm 60 beats per minute. The door opened. Entered his face pale with worry. "The warriors are already in the arena," he said. "They are putting on a show for the crowd, crushing metal bars with their claws, breaking stone blocks with their fists." He paused. "Their scales can stop bullets. How are you supposed to hurt them with your bare hands?" Continued her stretches. "Scales protect against cutting and piercing," she said. "Not against impact, not against pressure on joints, not against blood chokes." Blood chokes. "If I stop blood from reaching the brain shuts down. It does not matter how strong the body is." She rose from her stretch and rolled her shoulders. "Have the same basic circulatory system as most species. Heart pumps blood, arteries carry it, brain needs it to function." Shook his head. "You make it sound simple." "It is simple," replied. "Not easy, but simple." Ambassador entered next. His face was serious but saw something else in his eyes. Confidence. He believed in her. The council speaker tried to cancel the match, said. They called it unnecessarily dangerous. Riss refused. He said humanity was trying to escape with their honor intact. He paused. "I could still file a formal protest. We could withdraw." "No," shook her head. "If we withdraw now, every species in this chamber will remember. They will say humans are cowards who hide behind their machines. Future negotiations will suffer. Future alliances will be harder to build." She met his eyes. "This is not just about me. This is about how the galaxy sees humanity for the next 100 years." Nodded slowly. "I know, that is why I am not stopping you." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small cloth patch. It showed the Earth blue and green, surrounded by stars. Humanity is watching. Billions of people back home are seeing this broadcast live. Took the patch and held it for a moment. Then she tucked it into her pocket, close to her heart. "Tell them not to worry," she said. A tone sounded through the room. It was time. Walked through the tunnel toward the arena. The noise of the crowd grew louder with each step. Thousands of alien voices mixed together into a wall of sound. Most of them were cheering for the... She stepped out into the light. The arena floor was made of smooth gray metal. It was 30 meters across, plenty of room to move. The holographic barriers rose 3 meters high, flickering with energy that would stop anyone from leaving the designated area. On the opposite side of the arena stood the 3 warriors. They were massive. Each one stood over 7 feet tall and weighed at least 300 kilograms. Their scales were dark green, almost black and thick enough to serve as natural armor. Their arms were long and muscular, ending in hands with 4 clawed fingers each. Their tails were thick and powerful, capable of breaking bones with a single swing. They looked at and laughed. The crowd laughed with them. Rhys sat in a special viewing box above the arena. He leaned forward with a grin on his face. "This is the human champion," he called out. "She is barely larger than a child." More laughter. Walked to the center of the arena and stopped. She stood perfectly still, her arms relaxed at her sides, her bare feet planted firmly on the cold metal floor. She did not look at the crowd. She did not look at Rhys. She looked only at the 3 warriors in front of her. The first warrior stepped forward. His name was, and he had killed 37 enemies in personal combat. He spread his arms wide, showing his claws to the audience. The crowd cheered. "Little human," said, his voice dripping with contempt. "I will try not to kill you too quickly. The audience paid for entertainment." Said nothing. The council speaker's voice echoed through the arena. "This match will continue until one side is unable to fight or surrenders. Killing is permitted but not required. Begin when ready." Cracked his neck from side to side. He rolled his massive shoulders. He opened and closed his clawed hands, making them click together like scissors. Then he charged. Did not move. She stood perfectly still as 700 pounds of armored muscle rushed toward her. The crowd held its breath. This was the moment of slaughter they had been waiting for. Swung his clawed hand toward her throat. And finally moved. His claws cut through empty air. The crowd gasped. One moment, the small human had been standing directly in the path of death. The next moment, she was simply somewhere else. She had moved sideways with a speed that seemed impossible for a creature with no obvious muscle mass. Stumbled forward, carried by his own momentum. His claws had been aimed at a throat that was no longer there. Before he could recover his balance, his open palm struck the inside of his elbow. The sound was loud and sharp, like a hammer hitting wood. Roared in pain. His arm bent at an angle it was not designed for. The elbow joint, hidden beneath his thick scales, had no armor. The scales protected against blades and bullets, but the joint itself was soft tissue, cartilage, and bone, and had studied exactly where that joint was located. She did not stop to admire her work. While was still processing the pain in his arm, she dropped low and swept her leg behind his ankle. It was a basic technique, taught in the first month of human martial arts training, but basics worked for a reason. 700 pounds of warrior crashed onto the metal floor. The arena shook from the impact, landed on his back, the wind driven from his lungs. His eyes were wide with shock. This was not possible. This soft, small creature had knocked him down. Was already moving. She jumped onto his chest, her knees pressing against his shoulders to pin him. Tried to swing his good arm at her, but she caught his wrist and redirected it past her body. Then she drove her elbow down into the side of his neck. Not the front of the neck, where thick scales protected the throat. The side, where the major arteries ran close to the surface. She had memorized the circulatory system from medical databases during the journey to the station. Her elbow struck perfectly. His eyes rolled back. His body went limp beneath her. The blood flow to his brain had been disrupted for just long enough. He was unconscious, not dead, but completely out of the fight. Stood up slowly. The arena was silent. 10,000 aliens stared at her without making a sound. They had come to see a human torn apart. They had expected blood and screaming and the easy victory of the strong over the weak. Instead, they had seen something that did not make sense to them. 4 seconds. The entire exchange had taken 4 seconds. In the viewing box, Rhys was no longer smiling. He leaned forward, his yellow eyes fixed on the small human standing over his fallen warrior. "What happened?" someone in the crowd whispered. The translation systems carried the words across the arena. "I did not see what happened." Looked up at the remaining 2 warriors. They stood frozen at the edge of the arena, their expressions changed. The laughter was gone from their faces. In its place was something new, something they rarely felt. Uncertainty. "Your friend is alive," said. Her voice was calm and quiet, but it carried clearly in the silent arena. "He will wake in a few minutes with a headache. I do not wish to kill anyone today." The second warrior named took a step forward. He was slightly larger than, and his scales were from many battles. "You got lucky," he growled. "Was careless. I will not make the same mistake." He began to circle around the arena, keeping distance from her. The third warrior moved in the opposite direction. They were going to attack from 2 sides at once. Turned slowly, keeping both of them in her sight. Her body remained relaxed. Her breathing stayed steady. A human watching might recognize her stance, the way her weight was centered, the way her hands hung loose and ready. She was not bracing for defense. She was preparing to attack. In the preparation room, watched on a small screen, his hands were pressed against his mouth. "2 at once," he whispered. "She cannot handle 2 at once." Next to him, watched in silence. He had Red's complete file, the parts that were classified above top secret. He knew about the mission on 442, where she had faced a group of rebel soldiers in an underground tunnel with no weapons and no backup. He knew about the operation on the Titan mining colony, where she had disabled 7 hostage takers in complete darkness. He was not worried. In the arena, an attack together. They moved fast for their size, faster than any creature that large had a right to move. Came from the left with his claws extended. Came from the right with his tail swinging like a club. Exploded into motion. She did not try to block or dodge. She ran directly at, surprising him with her aggression. Humans were supposed to be prey animals. Prey animals ran away from predators. They did not charge toward them. Her foot connected with his knee from the side. The joint bent inward with a crack, screamed and fell, clutching his leg. His tail swept through the space where she had been standing, but she had already moved. She rolled under the swing and came up behind him. Before he could turn, her arm wrapped around his throat from behind. She was too small to reach around his neck completely, but she did not need to. She grabbed her own arm and pulled, using her entire body weight as leverage. The technique was called a rear naked choke, and it worked on any creature with a neck. Thrashed and clawed at her arm. His scales scraped against her skin, drawing blood, but she held on. Tried to stand, but his damaged knee would not support him. He collapsed again, screaming in frustration. His movements became slower. His arms dropped to his sides. His body swayed. Then he fell forward. Released the choke and stepped back. Lay face down on the arena floor, unconscious. Sat nearby, unable to stand, his eyes wide with disbelief. 3 opponents, all defeated, less than 30 seconds total. Stood alone in the center of the arena, breathing just slightly harder than before. Blood ran down her arm from the scratches on her skin. She did not seem to notice. She looked up at Rhys. "Do you have more warriors?" she asked. The silence in the arena stretched for a long time. 10,000 aliens stared at the small human female standing among fallen warriors. Medical teams rushed onto the platform to check on the unconscious fighters. They confirmed what had promised. All three were alive. Injured, humiliated, but alive. Riss stood in his viewing box with his claws gripping the railing so hard that the metal was bending. His yellow eyes burned with fury and confusion. This was impossible. They had dominated ground combat for 300 years. They had conquered worlds. They had crushed armies. And this tiny, soft-skinned creature had defeated 3 of his best warriors in less than a minute. How? Riss demanded. His voice thundered across the arena. You have no claws, you have no armor, you have no venom or fangs. You are made of soft flesh that tears at the slightest touch. How is this possible? Looked up at him. The scratches on her arm still bled, but she ignored them. Because you do not understand what humans are, she said. Then explain it to me, Riss growled. Explain it to all of us. Nodded slowly. She turned in a circle, looking at the thousands of faces staring down at her. Reptiles, insects, crystalline beings, floating gas creatures, and dozens of other forms of life. They had all come expecting to watch a human die. Now they watched her with new eyes. You see my body and you see weakness, began. No natural weapons, no protective shell, slow compared to many species, unable to survive in extreme temperatures without artificial help. She paused. You are correct about all of these things. Murmurs spread through the crowd. If she was admitting human weakness, what was her point? But you are missing something important, continued. Humans did not evolve as the strongest species on our planet. We did not evolve as the fastest or the most armored. We evolved as the most persistent. She began to walk in a slow circle, her bare feet silent on the metal floor. On Earth, our ancestors hunted by chasing prey, not fast chases that ended in seconds, slow chases that lasted for hours, sometimes days. The prey animal would run and we would follow. It would rest and we would appear again. It would run again and again we would follow. Eventually the animal would collapse from exhaustion, and we would be there, still walking, still ready. Many aliens looked confused. This was not how predators hunted. Predators struck quickly or not at all. We call this persistence hunting, said. It required certain abilities. We needed to track prey over long distances. We needed to predict where the animal would go. We needed to understand the animal, to read its body language, to know when it was getting tired. She stopped walking and faced Riss directly. We became experts at studying other creatures. We learned to see patterns in movement. We learned to identify weaknesses. And we did this for hundreds of thousands of years, long before we invented any tools at all. Riss said nothing, but his grip on the railing loosened slightly. When I faced your warriors, said, I did not need to be stronger than them. I needed to understand them. During my journey here, I studied anatomy for 3 hours. I learned where your joints are weakest. I learned which arteries supply blood to your brain. I learned how your species distributes weight when moving. She gestured toward the fallen warriors. Charged in a straight line because predators always chase directly toward prey. He expected me to run away, so he did not prepare for me to move sideways. His elbow joint has no scale protection because never evolved enemies that attack joints. When he fell, his instinct was to protect his chest and face, leaving his neck exposed. The medical teams were now listening as intently as the crowd. No one had ever explained vulnerabilities so clearly before. And attack together because pack tactics are natural for your species, but they expected their prey to flee or freeze, not attack back. When I moved toward instead of away, his brain took half a second to adjust. That half second was enough. Held up her arm, showing the scratches from scales. Yes, your scales cut my skin. Yes, you are stronger than me. Yes, in a simple test of force against force, I would lose every time. She lowered her arm. But combat is not a simple test of force. Combat is a problem to be solved. and humans are very good at solving problems." She turned again to face the full crowd. "This is what we are. This is what you failed to understand. We did not invent weapons because we were weak. We invented weapons because we were already dangerous and we wanted to be more efficient. Every tool we create, every technique we develop, every strategy we plan, comes from millions of years of evolution that taught us one lesson above all others." She paused, letting the silence build. "Anything can be defeated, anything can be hunted, anything can fall. You only need to find the right weakness and strike at the right moment." In the viewing box, Riss slowly released the bent railing. His claws retracted back into his fingers. The anger had faded from his face, replaced by something else, something that looked almost like respect. "You could have killed them," he said quietly. "You chose not to." Nodded. "I do not kill when I do not have to. I came here to demonstrate human capability, not to create enemies. Your warriors fought well. They will recover and fight again." Riss was silent for a long moment. Then he did something that shocked the entire chamber. He bowed his head. "I was wrong about humans," he said. "I thought you were soft prey hiding behind technology. I see now that the technology is only the smallest part of what makes you dangerous." Bowed in return. "They are strong and honorable. We would be proud to fight beside you." In the preparation room, had tears running down his face. He was not alone. Many humans watching the broadcast across the galaxy were having similar reactions. Simply smiled. The vote was held 1 hour after the arena cleared. The Galactic Council gathered in the main chamber once again. Thousands of delegates returned to their floating seats, but the atmosphere was completely different. Before the fight, they had looked at the human delegation with doubt and amusement. Now they looked with curiosity and caution. Ambassador stood at the central platform. Stood behind him, her arm now wrapped in clean bandages. Stood next to her, still wiping his eyes from time to time. The council speakers' crystals glowed bright blue as they addressed the chamber. "We will now vote on humanity's application for full membership in the Galactic Military Alliance. Commander Riss of the delegation, you raised the original objection. Do you wish to speak?" Riss rose from his seat. Every eye in the chamber turned toward him. They were among the most influential military powers in the galaxy. Their opinion carried great weight. "I objected because I believed humans were pretenders," Riss said. His voice was calm now, without the mocking tone from before. "I believed they relied entirely on their weapons and machines. I believed that without technology, they were harmless." He paused and looked directly at. "I was wrong. The human warrior lieutenant demonstrated combat ability that exceeded my expectations. She defeated 3 trained warriors using only her body and her mind. She showed mercy to enemies who would not have shown mercy to her. She displayed both the deadliness and the restraint that define a true warrior." Murmurs of agreement spread through the chamber. "I withdraw my objection," Riss continued. "I vote yes for human membership, and I personally recommend that any species considering conflict with humanity think very carefully about what they are truly facing." He sat down. The vote proceeded quickly after that. One by one, species voted in favor of human membership. The crystalline collective voted yes. The swarm voted yes. The gas giant dwellers voted yes. Even species that had never interacted with humans voted yes, swayed by what they had witnessed. The final count was unanimous. "Humanity is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Military Alliance," the council speaker announced. "Welcome, humans. We look forward to fighting beside you." Applause filled the chamber. It was a strange sound coming from so many different species. Clapping, clicking, humming, and dozens of other forms of celebration mixed together into a wave of noise. Bowed deeply. "We are honored to join this alliance. Humanity pledges to stand with our new allies against any threat. Together, we are stronger." After the ceremony ended, slipped away from the celebration. She walked through quiet corridors until she found an observation deck overlooking the stars. She stood there alone, watching the distant lights. She did not know how long she stood there before she heard footsteps behind her. It was Riss. The commander approached slowly, his clawed feet clicking on the floor. He stopped several meters away, keeping a respectful distance. "I came to thank you," he said. Turned to face him. "Thank me. You could have killed my warriors, many species would have. You chose to defeat them without permanent damage. That shows honor." He paused. "It also shows intelligence. Dead warriors create blood feuds. Defeated warriors create respect." Nodded. "I did not come here to make enemies." "You succeeded." Riss took a step closer. "May I ask a question?" "Of course." "Were you afraid? At any point during the fight did you feel fear?" Considered the question carefully before answering. "Yes, I felt fear before the fight began. While I was waiting in the preparation room, knowing what I was about to face. Fear is natural, it keeps us alert." "But during the fight itself?" "No, during the fight there was no room for fear. There was only the next movement, the next decision, the next moment. Fear comes before and after, never during." Riss nodded slowly. "Warriors say something similar. We call it the battle silence, the state where everything else falls away." "Humans have many names for it," said. "Flow, the zone, Mushin." She smiled slightly. "It is good to know we have something in common." They stood together in comfortable silence for a moment, two warriors from very different worlds, watching the stars. "The alliance will be stronger with humans in it," Riss said finally. "I believe that now, but I also believe something else." "What is that?" "I believe the galaxy has not yet seen what humans can truly do. Today was a small demonstration. A single warrior, fighting unarmed, holding back. Someday, the galaxy will face a threat great enough that humans stop holding back." He turned to look at her with his yellow eyes. "When that day comes, I want to be standing beside humans, not against them." Met his gaze. "We would be honored to have you with us." Riss bowed his head, then turned and walked away. Returned her attention to the stars. Somewhere out there, billions of humans were celebrating. They had seen one of their own stand against impossible odds and win. They had seen that humanity was more than just their technology. She thought about what Riss had said. He was right. Today had been a small demonstration. She had held back. She had fought with mercy and restraint. But humans were capable of much more than mercy. Somewhere in their ancient past, her ancestors had learned to hunt, to kill, to survive against predators that should have destroyed them. They had turned rocks into weapons and sticks into spears. They had learned to make fire and to use it against their enemies. They had spread across an entire planet and conquered every environment on it. And when they reached the stars, they brought all of that history with them. Touched the cloth patch in her pocket, the one showing Earth surrounded by stars. She hoped the galaxy would never have to see what humans could truly do when they stopped holding back. But if that day ever came, she would be ready. All of humanity would be ready. They always had been.